Well, hey, everybody, what's happening? It's time again for another Doctor movie. And this is a special. It's a special episode because you know it's been bat crap crazy week. Well, I can't think of a better way to end it than get my good buddy Cort Psyops to come on and talk about one of our favorite movies. What's happening, my brother?
Not too much, my man, Ricky. And I love it that when you think of batshit crazy, you think of Cort Psyops.
Well, that should be like maybe your middle name.
Cort batshit's crazy Psyops.
That's it, man.
It's better than my real middle name, my man.
Well, mine too, actually. I got one of those passed down middle names that I was like, really? Y'all couldn't come up with anything more original, right? So, yeah.
It saved me. Having my middle name be my dad's name saved me from being a junior, at least.
Yeah. Well, I've got the ever popular Eugene passed down to me, so.
Oh, so it's like a Morgan line of whoever, Eugene Morgan?
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah. Maybe sounded like a good idea in 1970. I don't know.
Well, I have a cousin who has that same name as his first name, and he's doing just fine with it.
So if you folks don't know that may be new to this show, Cort Psyops has the most awesome Cinema Psyops podcast, which is awesome. Again, you should quit listening to my shows and go check out his shows.
Oh, come on. Your shows are a lot more digestible than ours because you make them so bite-sized and easy to understand what's going on, whereas Matt and I are just ranting, rambling idiots for like an hour and a half of your life or more for our show every week.
And there you go, folks. What else do you need? I mean, that's perfect excuse to go check it out. But they do. And what I like about the show is, I mean, it's still pretty rooted in horror, but it kind of goes outside of those boundaries quite a bit too. And that's something I respect. I like when people are willing to get outside the box. And, Cort and I have a lot of fun. We do a special show for Legion podcast called Mental Rental, which we're kind of guilty of not cranking out enough of those, which is probably my fault. But,
we do have one in the can, and if I'm the one that's got to edit it, you give me the files. I'll take care of it, my man. Because I want that one out. That one was great. We did Roller Boogie with Danny not too long ago, and I can't wait for people to hear it and or see it.
Right, that's right. So, yeah, I guess maybe I do need to jump on that. I thought I got it out there, but I guess I didn't. Anyways, folks, if you might want to check that one out. Who knows? But, yeah, that was a lot of fun where we got both guys from Hellming and Cort together, which we've done several things together, so that's always a lot of fun. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking today about some Dario Argento. You already know how I feel about Dario. Probably know how Cort feels about it because he's the one that brought this movie to the show.
And what movie is that, Ricky?
That is Phenomena, or for you American people. Phenomena. Phenomena. Right. So, yeah, I mean, and again, this is why we're friends.
Well, I knew one of us was going to make the joke, so I just grabbed that on the YouTube like right off the bat and had it ready to go.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, Dario Argento, I'm going to be honest with you. This is definitely one of my favorite movies he's done.
Oh, yeah.
I know we always talk about the big hitters, right? We always talk about Suspiria. I do love Deep Red, but I really think this one, as bat crap crazy as it is, one of his better films.
Oh, it's definitely better produced. It's definitely shot gorgeously. I just got my hands on a 4K version of this. Mine was the Synops release.
Awesome.
And I watched the international, or not the international, but the Italian version, which is the longest version for this show. For my review, and I am super happy with the transfer. All of the grain that's in the film is still there. It's literally just a 4K scan. They may have cleaned up some scratches and some defects and things like that. And this is one of those like integral cuts where the things that exist in the Italian only version, they only have Italian dialogue for. They never dub that in English and stuff like that. So it's kind of like that version of Deep Red that's the integral cut where all the added scenes that never got put in anywhere else, they're just in the original Italian. That was dubbed in later.
I just reviewed a copy as well. It wasn't a 4K scan of it, but it was the same way. It had the extra scenes with the Italian dialogue in it that were cut out originally. So that was pretty interesting to go, yeah, I don't really know what they're saying right here. So
Well, luckily for me, mine had subtitles, so I did know what they were saying at least.
Mine didn't. Oh,
yeah.
I'll give you a challenge too. So, because the episode before this one, if I'm correct, will be Boxer's Omen. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, I haven't. That sounds like a martial arts film.
Well, it's a Shaw Brothers film. It's like if Fulci made a film for Shaw Brothers. That's it's the only way I can describe it.
I must own it now.
And
that sold me alone.
The version I had no overdubs and had no subtitles. So I had to just kind of figure out what was happening, which there's no figuring this movie out.
That's how I watched Cass Hearn for the very first time, the live action version that was made in like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I had no subtitles for it. All I had was just this beautiful visual feast that was just mesmerizing.
I don't know if this is beautiful. The Boxer's Omen is, I mean, you do have Bolo Young in there for a little bit, so that's kind of cool.
That's enough for me to consider it beautiful, man. That guy's pecs are amazing.
Yeah. He always gives them that stare. And he's the same character in every movie. But hey, anyways.
He's just Bolo Young. It's like you hire Bolo Young to be Bolo Young.
Exactly. And but yeah, man, that movie is it's wacko. So
I need to find a version of that with subtitles for both of us then.
you need to check it out and let me know what you think about it, because like I said, hopefully this will be the next day and that the episode will come out the day before, and it's just bonkers, man. There's things in there that just you try to figure out what they're doing. No, man. It's right up there with Hazu as far as just over the top craziness. So
you've already sold me on this. I'm already going to find it.
It wouldn't take much. I mean, I'm surprised you haven't heard it, really. So
yeah. Boxer's Omen, you said?
Boxer's Omen. Yep. It's a Shaw film from about the same time period, 83, 85, somewhere around in there.
Oh, nice.
Strange. But let's not forget this one, right? This one's strange and beautiful.
Absolutely. And the film that we're talking about is
All right. I see us getting nowhere.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to close that window out to avoid that joke anymore. We've pushed that as far as it's going to go for us.
No, you will.
I swear on the gods of podcasting, that is closed out, and now I'm just looking for Boxer's Omen in the background.
So, if you're not familiar with this movie, in the U.S., there's a very edited down version that was called Creepers. Has some cool artwork, but there's no comparison. You have to see the version. It's phenomena.
We'll just sing it. That's what we do.
So let's do a quick synopsis on this. And this is very, very vague because that's the reason we're doing this show, so we can talk about it. But it says an American at a Swiss finishing school calls on insects to help a paralyzed scientist fight a monster.
I mean, yes, but also not enough information.
Yeah. That's just enough to make you go, huh? So,
right.
Yeah. And come on, man. I mean, the music in this, right? You obviously got some goblin going on, Claudio Simonetti doing stuff. We got some Iron Maiden in this movie.
Flash of the Blade. It's the most fitting of any of the heavy metal that he would just insert into his shows for no reason, because there is a Flash of the Blade that is taking lives. Yeah,
so really what's going on, these schoolgirls are being killed and the weapon of choice is basically a spear. It's like a retractable spear, but they put a knife on the end of it.
It's What If Suspiria, but no witches, and Carrie versus Jason.
Yes, I was going to bring up the Carrie thing for sure. Oh yeah, I like the Jason twist too. I get that. But yeah, so let's do something real quick and do. Let's look at our cast. You got Jennifer Connelly. I mean, here's the thing about it. Most people probably think of Labyrinth, which is what Argento saw her in, and he wanted her in this role. Right. I think of her in this movie. I just do. Yeah. The scenes where, I mean, she's just the perfect person for this part, because it's that wholesome kind of thing, but she has these abilities, right? It just works. So Argento got this one right.
And she starts out emotionally as sort of a blank canvas because she's so on guard. But as she sort of comes out of her shell with her roommate and starts to trust her and really like her, then those vulnerabilities open up, and then she actually emotes more, and we get more of her because she's not as guarded. And then,
Yep.
of course, that vulnerability gets destroyed because she's in an all-girl school, and we know what happens in all-girl schools: bullying.
That's right.
Lots
I mean,
of it.
and that's Argento always lines up these roommates, classmates to always be these people. You're just like, I wouldn't want to be around these people.
Yeah, with the exception of her actual first roommate, everybody else in that school is a fucking piece of shit.
But yeah, come on, Donald Pleasance, right?
Oh, amazing in this. Even his horrible Scottish accent is amazing to me.
Yeah, the accent is not great, but he plays a doctor here, or a professor, who is studying. How do we word this? The impact of he can tell when a person was deceased based off of the way the insects react to it, right? What larva stage they are as far as feeding off of it.
Yeah, he goes into that. It's like 15 days. It's like a 15-day cycle for all these various types of insects. And he can tell by the maggots that are behind or whatever flies might be attracted to it at the time. He can calculate the time of death based on that because it's a known thing that he has already studied. And he's the world's foremost expert in this, which is very Argento. Very cat's eyes. And, Nine Deaths in a Cat's Eye. Cat of Nine Tails in this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the one that really knows, the only one that really knows.
Right.
Daria Nicolodi, what can you say about her? I mean, this is that period when the relationship probably wasn't going well, so Argento puts her in these roles and has her killed off.
Oh, and let's not forget, he also has a thing with killing off his daughters in films because Fiore is, I think, the first one. Yeah, the first death that we see on film, and a very gruesome one at that.
Yeah, I mean, what a setup, right? Yeah, I was going to say Fiore is next on the list. You got Michael Sauvé in this, too. He pops in Sauvé. He's
the director of Cemetery Man, a.k.a. Della Morte Della More.
Which will be covered really soon on this show.
Hit a man up for that. Hit a man up for that.
We might can make that work. Who am I missing here? Who am I leaving out?
Well, you got most of the main cast and most of the faces that people would recognize for the most part.
Right.
And you already mentioned Claudio Simonetti, but Bill Weinman had a lot to do. Like, he wrote one of the most, the longest on-screen pieces where she is in the field.
Yeah.
And that's just a gorgeous bit of music that he put together. Very ethereal. Yeah, everything's so dreamlike and ethereal that I feel that's the Suspiria influence. Like, this is not a drama or just a slasher film. This is a fantasy film that has all those other drama and slasher elements to it.
Yeah, I mean, and again, that's why it kind of fits in this category of what we're talking about. This to me, this is the one that, even though it is totally bat crap crazy, it's still such a beautiful and interesting film that, it's nice to group it in here and kind of show you that even though you can really get out there with like The Visitor or maybe Demon Wind.
Now that is bat crap crazy.
Exactly. I mean, the story here is you got a serial killer who's being tracked down and who's chasing a girl that can talk to insects. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. I mean,
well, she has telepathy that actually surfaced in the film does try to really explain things, but you have to really put in the work. Like, you have to really pay attention to every piece of dialogue. Luckily, I've watched it enough to really get it, but her telepathy, where she can communicate with insects, was at a point where she would not get stung by them, and then she liked them and they liked her.
Right.
But it's when she was sleepwalking and got hit by the car that Donald Pleasance says that must have activated something in her.
Yeah, it turned the switch on. Yeah.
Right. It just basically amped up her telepathy to full power because now she can control insects and almost directly communicate with them. And they hinted at the telepathy in that she was sleepwalking because she was going to find the murderer. Like, she's drawn to this subject matter. And it might be just because perhaps the maggots that are always on the murderer.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is the interesting Argento twist that you always get, that the MacGuffin, right? That's going to lead you to somewhere else. Yeah. She happens in her sleepwalk, she's being led by a lightning bug to track where this murder happened. And she finds a glove from the murder that's got these maggots on it, takes it back, and they find out, hey, this maggot belongs to a species of fly that isn't from around here.
The sarcophagi or something like that. It's yeah, it's a very specific fly that is, its whole purpose is to eat these decomposing flesh, and that's its whole breeding cycle.
But I love the fact of it's only in one area, but it's only 10 miles that way. Oh, so yeah,
it ordinarily doesn't survive in this kind of climate, I guess, is what he was trying to say, because of the temperatures for it, that it wouldn't be found normally here. But yeah, let's just say it's that rare, and let's just go with it. It's a fantasy movie. Why not? Right?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Is it leads to her traveling to that area and trying to put these pieces together, which we kind of see throughout the movie. It starts off in that area, in some part of Switzerland, and
oh, that's very clearly the Alps, right? Those are gorgeous mountains.
Yeah, and that's where Fiora gets knocked off. She gets left up behind school bus. She misses the bus, tries to go to a house to borrow a phone, goes in the wrong house, and something breaks loose and starts chasing her up into some kind of cavern. And
yeah, it's like a walkway that goes underneath a waterfall with like a little view window to keep you from getting soaked. It's kind of cool in there.
Yeah. But, sooner or later, though, it looks like somebody's going to have to replace that window because that window gets knocked out with Fiora's head. And
better call Pella. That's a special job.
And we get to see her head floating down the river, So somebody meant business.
I will say that the 4K scan of this, it's the first time that the head looked really dummy-like and fake, but I totally didn't care because everything else was great. I didn't care that it looked fake in the waterfall.
You're not going to throw a real head, I don't think. So it's going to have to be fake to some degree, right?
Yeah, not unless you're a Paul Naschy movie or you're going to use a real severed head.
True.
That happened once and only once.
Right. So we get Jennifer Connelly coming to the school. That's not her name. Well, her name's Jennifer in the show. Corvino.
Jennifer Corvino, yeah. I think her place in this is like a stand-in for Asia. Like this is his guilt for not being around for Asia because he's always making movies. Because a lot of this seems to be the bad things happening to her because her father's busy making movies in the Philippines. That's also very Italian. How many Italian films are made in the Philippines?
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, I mean, she's sent off to this school and gets accepted in, meets her new roommate. She's issued in by Dario Argento, who's Frau Bruckner. Bringing her in. Frau Bruckner. He was my boyfriend! And the story just kind of goes from there. You start, seeing these girls getting knocked off, which is kind of confusing. Are we just murdering for the sake of murdering these kids? Because do they really know any secrets that they're hiding or anything? That's the only thing that's kind of missing to me is we just start seeing these teen girls getting killed. But do they really know the purpose of why they're being killed? Is what I'm asking.
No, I don't think so. But
I don't think so either.
I mean, we know at the end it's because they saw the killer who hates his own appearance and, oh, spoiler alert, hates their own appearance, I should say. And then for some reason, there's a psychotic killer who also was sane enough to be able to machine themselves this snap together spear device that is like heavily, like it's all metal, and it has even like set screws that you can put it together and that help hold it together and all of that. I want to know, like, where in the world did they find the time? And when you find out who the killer is by the end of the movie, like, how in the world were they able to machine that? Someone had to create that for them.
Yeah.
Or did they find that somewhere? Like, where did this spear thing come from? Mostly because I want one.
It can conveniently be, taken apart and put into a small handbag, if you catch what I mean.
Right. Again, Cort, it's a fantasy film, so stop asking questions like that.
I mean, yeah, it's just as no crazier than, Jennifer Connelly sleepwalking on that ledge of that roof, on that building, and catching her coat on it and, falling down and getting picked up by those hitchhiker guys or she hitchhikes with, or whatever you want to call it. They start groping her and stuff.
Yeah, they actually show in the Italian version, there's an extended part of that where they hit her, and then like in the normal like international cutter and the even the creepers cut, it's even more truncated, but like they pick her up and put her in the car, and I think they're actually planning on, because they already hit her, basically just disposing of her after they do what they're going to do, because like you said, they do start groping her. And in the Italian version, the extended bit, it's even more grotesque, because they go for a while and she really fights with them until she finally falls out of the car. In the more cut versions of it, it's just basically they hit her, it seems like she comes to in the car, starts going crazy, and then falls out.
Right.
But like they've definitely had much more nefarious motives behind what they're doing. And I would think that whole experience of getting hit and then that assault and feeling so helpless is really what triggered her like special telepathy powers.
Sure. And then she goes on to, Donald Pleasance's place and turns on the Beatles.
But not like John, Paul, and Ringo and George.
No, not those Beatles.
Right. No, not those folks.
Yeah, she picks up one of these bugs and it starts singing its song, man. It's attracted to her. So.
Well, who isn't?
Right. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I mean, you got to talk. No matter what conversation you have to talk about the girl that's just infatuated with the Bee Gees. That's one of the students.
She's like the only thing I tend to remember about this film. Is the Bee Gees obsessed lady who wants to credit them with all creativity, as if music is somehow tuning up until they came along.
I love that they're in the literature class and the teacher asks her, "So what do you think this passage means?" "I think these words are taken straight out of a song by the Bee Gees." and she's got this shirt on that's got Barry Gibb's head. I mean, it covers pretty much the whole shirt. And I mean, nowadays that's not a big deal, but in this time frame, nobody had a shirt with just a big headshot of Barry Gibb.
Yeah, that didn't look like a concert T-shirt. That looks like the sort of thing that she made herself.
Yeah.
That's a super fan right there.
Yeah, could be the killer. Just saying.
No one's that big of a Bee Gees fan unless they're psychotic, right?
Oh man. What are we missing here? I mean, and not, well, I guess we can give stuff away, I guess. It doesn't hurt anything.
If folks haven't seen this by now, we do you go through kind of the whole film anyway, so we might as well just kind of discuss it. So the killer's a child or a growth regressed man? Their age is really vague. And also apparently he's a demon child from a sexual assault that happened to his mother while she was working in an asylum, while she was in the Silence of the Lambs level of the asylum.
If he only had a glove with knives on it, it would really meld this whole story together.
Right, but it wasn't 100 maniacs in this case. It was one very specific, like worst of the worst maniacs.
Yeah, named Chuck.
It could be Charles Lee Ray.
It could be. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing here is you find out that you kind of have two killers here. And one is to cover up for the other one that's going around and doing the killing. So this little guy who's obviously got some messed up features on his face and maggots on his face. When it leads to this part, again, Jennifer Connelly's character takes a trip out to the Alps to track down all that's going on based off these maggots. Leads to the house, goes inside the house, and finds out that Dario Nicolodi's character is living there. And that's when things just, the switches turn, right? We've had other cool things to happen where Jennifer Connelly is getting bullied by all the kids at the school because they found out she's got these abilities because she wrote a letter to her dad saying, "Hey, I'm finding out I can do this stuff," and they find the letter and they're bullying her, and then all of a sudden she pulls a carry on them and screams, and all of a sudden the whole building is just covered with flies that are there to protect her.
I love that scene where she's telling the flies that she loves them
I love you all.
Yeah.
And you think she's talking to the girls think that she's talking to them till they look outside and see all the flies on the window. So yeah, when Jennifer Connelly, like when a bright light comes on her and her hair starts floating in the wind, it's time to back off.
It's like Enigma, only with a real budget.
Enigma. Oh. But yeah, I mean, she makes this trip and finds out that something else is going on in this house. The whole deal with her getting her to take the pill is just crazy. I mean, and I guess she gets a sense that it's some sort of poison. that Dario Nickelodeon's given her. I can't remember what she says. Is it something to just calm her down, or was it a sleeping pill?
I think she was trying to drug her, yeah. But
Yeah.
like she said something about to help her relax or to help her
Right.
sleep.
I thought it was like kind of a calm her nerves kind of thing. And
yeah,
as soon as she starts taking it,
it's probably like this huge freaking sedative because yeah, you're right. As soon as she takes it and it starts to dissolve even just a little bit, she starts to get really dopey. And luckily she throws up what's left of it, but there's enough in her system to make her sluggish and not be able to defend herself properly.
Yeah. And she even tries to make it back to the phone, and she even knocks Dario Nickelodeon on the ground, while she's trying to make this phone call. But then she comes up behind her and hits her with something, kind of lays her out a little bit and locks her up. And then you go through this other scenario of her going through this tunnel that's in the house and coming up in this room that nobody wants to go to.
That's a very heavy Suspiria influence there. Is this hidden tunnel that goes through? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very creepy. This is some of the most effective, like, shock and horror moments in this film.
Yeah. And we have a visitor come up to the house at the same time, which happens to be an officer of some sort who's doing some sort of investigation.
He was at the very beginning. He was the guy that brought the head to Donald Pleasant's character.
Right.
And it's finally come to this conclusion, but he is essentially 5 steps behind Jennifer because she's already solved the case.
Right. But somehow Dario Nickelodeon and maybe Little Man grab him and chain him to the wall, so when I think about that, when you think about the very beginning of this movie, you give me your thoughts on this, Cort, but we've chained up the investigator to the wall, but at the beginning of the movie, those chains get broken off or broken out of the wall, and we assume that it's this maniac killer.
Well, there's 2 different locations, right? The place that the chains get yanked out of the wall, I think, is that smaller house where the other girl is. But when he broke out from there, that abandoned part of the school area that's like got that giant pool of corpses that we see at this pit, I think that is where she's keeping her child now. And I think he's been locked in a room as opposed to just chained to a wall.
So that's what I was saying, because initially the chains were for him. But maybe that wasn't enough to hold him, so now she has to like lock him in his own room or something in another location. I don't know. It's just one of those things that kind of makes you go, no, wait a minute. But anyways, they chain this guy to the wall. Jennifer Connelly comes in there, her character, Jennifer, and she is frightened by the guy that's on the wall because he's pretty battered up at this point. And she slips and falls into this big vat. That's this show is bat crazy.
bat crazy.
And it's just goo left over of people that are being eaten by larvae. It is nasty.
It's far grosser than the swimming pool with the bodies coming up from the ground in Poltergeist.
That was what I was going to say. If you were going to compare it to something, it's very much like the pool scene.
Yeah, only much more gross because Dario Argento is like, hold my latte.
Yeah, man. And Dario Nickelodeon comes in, you finding out she's a mad woman, and she is just cackling like this is the funniest thing she's ever seen, with Jennifer falling into that. She's planning on killing Jennifer, and our officer in the background, in order to he's got these cuffs around his arms, chained to the wall, and in order to get loose, he breaks his own thumb with his fist so he can slide the handcuff or the cuff off, just so he can get his hand around Dario Nickelodeon's neck and start strangling her. Then that's Jennifer's cue to get out of there. She wanders through more of the house and notices this another thing too, is all the windows or all the mirrors and windows have sheets over them. And she makes this, discussion of for her son. She has a son and he doesn't want to see his reflection or anything like that. It upsets him. And now we know why, because he's a little demon child.
Little maggot face.
And she sees this kid over there crying in the corner and goes up to him and says, don't be afraid. You don't have to be afraid anymore. And it turns around and, of course, it's, like I said, maggot face. And then we get a chase out to the lake. Yeah. Oh, we're leaving out something totally in this movie that's
Donald Pleasant's death?
Donald Pleasant's death and his work partner.
Oh yeah. Speaking of fantasy life, or a fantasy movie, I didn't know that chimps could be effective nurses for the invalids out there.
Yeah. So
The handicapped folks.
Donald Pleasance can't get along by himself, so he's got a chimpanzee that's kind of his worker, and he's got this laser pointer. Whatever he points at, the monkey knows to go get it and bring it back or take care of it. And he makes even the comment of, the monkey, she never forgets what she sees the laser pointed at, right? Donald Pleasance gets killed because he's getting too far into this and he's figuring out what's happening. Killer shows up. We don't see who it is, but the monkey does.
Yeah, it's one of those cover-up murders. So we've already discussed that the mother is doing all the cover-up murders like this one.
It's weird that this fantasy thing's got such a giallo thing going on with it too.
Oh, it's the most giallo of any fantasy movie ever because there's so much animal stuff involved.
Yeah, and there's even a random scene throughout the movie where you just get a clip through all this other stuff that's going on with Jennifer Connelly and stuff. You get this one scene where it's like an open shot of like a park or something. You see the chimpanzee go through and stop at a trash can, pull out a straight razor, and just keep on walking.
Y'all seen Murders in the Rue Morgue? We know what's about to happen.
Oh, so back at the lake, Jennifer Connelly's getting in a boat, and all of a sudden here comes old Wormy. He runs. He jumps in the boat.
I like the nickname of Wormy. That's better than Maggot Face.
Wormy.
Wormy.
And he starts attacking her, trying to kill her. Well, she screams, and guess what happens? Here comes all the flies. They attack Wormy, and like ripping his face off and stuff, and he falls off the boat into the water. During all this, there's a gas can that's leaking. She goes to crank the boat. It explodes. Well, it doesn't explode. It catches fire. And all of a sudden, the fuel runs out in the water, so you get this nice Friday the 13th, Part 7.
Well, that was 6, where he did the fire around the boat.
That's right,
but
6.
The versus Carrie was 7, yeah.
Yes. And then you get the water on fire. She's trying to get away from that, so she dives in the water. Well, Wormy tries to grab her underwater, even though he's slowly dying. She gets away, gets up on the beach. We forgot to mention that is it her uncle that's on the way to pick you?
Her father's manager and lawyer.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how you get both of those in the same. But it's her dad's Michael Cohen, I guess you could say.
It's a fantasy flick. Don't forget, Cort.
Right. Sorry.
He can be whatever he wants to be. So
right. Logic does not exist in the world of phenomena.
Now, for you that are playing along, I'm going to say you need to watch this movie. But the one thing that you need to see, regardless if you see this movie or not, is the last, 20 seconds of this movie. Because here comes this lawyer guy come downhill to save her. She's exhausted, obviously, been through a lot of crap. He's coming down. He's excited to see her. She's obviously happy to see him. And then out of nowhere, here comes a flying piece of sheet metal, cuts dude's head right off. It's amazing. And it's Dario Nicolodi's character, Val Brooker. And then she takes the piece of sheet metal. So apparently she got away from the officer that was, chained to the wall and made her way out here. But now she's all upset because obviously we've killed Wormy. She's upset about it. She's got Jennifer Connelly on the ground with this piece of sheet metal across her neck, about to just, do the what was the chopper tool that guy used to advertise?
Oh, the jack chop or something like that?
Yeah, something, whatever it was. Slap chop, wasn't it?
Slap chop. The jack chop is the parody of that was done. Yeah, it's slap chop. You're right.
Yeah, so she's about to just take her head off with the sheet metal. And then she's like, why don't you call your insects to come and stop me? And she's going bat crap crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you hear her yell, and behind her is the chimpanzee with the straight razor hitting her across the leg, making her fall to the ground, and the monkey just proceeds to just slash her in the face with this straight razor.
And across the throat in some of the scenes too, yeah.
And then as soon as the monkey's got all the anger out, it just drops the knife, goes against Jennifer Connelly's lap. The end.
Just like a Hammer film, man. Monster's dead, roll credits.
That's it, man. Of course, Argento's, all of his movies are, as soon as that happens, you have been watching.
Phenomena or Suspiria. Yeah, it's over with. Monster dead, movie over.
uh, it's such a bizarre flick, but it's so beautifully done. Again, as much as I love Argento, I really think this is one of his better films, even as weird as it is. There's just something special about it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is probably the one that I connected with the fastest. I had seen, I can't remember the order that Anchor Bay had released them in, but um, I had obviously seen Suspiria first, but
Yeah.
that was a film that it took me a while to kind of grow into loving. The
Yep.
more mature of a film watcher I became, the more I enjoy Suspiria, for not besides the violence and things.
Right.
Deep Red is probably it's my favorite of all of his giallos, like just straight up giallos.
Yep.
Because it is the most insanely violent and just straightforward narrative you can follow, and there's a wonderful twist in it that, if you pay attention, actually pays off well.
Yes.
And then I saw this one. I saw Deep Red, then Phenomena, and then I think shortly after that I may have seen Opera. And
Ooh.
those three are kind of like a trifecta of the high points of sort of, well, at least for Opera and Phenomena, they're the high points of his later career when he's adding in all of the metal and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But Deep Red is definitely like his peak gialli. I don't think he really ever reached that again.
Yep, totally agree. That's my hands down my favorite movie of his. I never get tired of it, right? And I've actually already done that one on the show, so y'all can go back and check that one out. But don't be fooled by this one, because this movie is awesome. It's but it's one of those things where you have to take the last, like I said, minute of this movie and just show it to somebody, because it'll make you want to go back and watch the rest of it, because there's got to be an explanation, but you don't really get much of one.
It's what I used to refer to as the selling point on my shows. Like, this is the thing that you want. Like, hey, do you want to see a chimpanzee go ham on a psycho killer and save a girl's life by using her straight razor like it's Murders in the Rue Morgue?
Yeah.
No, that's not enough. Would you like to also know that girl can control insects whenever she's scared? Oh, that's not enough? That's not okay. What about a metal soundtrack that just makes no sense but just pops up because it's a fantasy movie?
Yeah. What about Donald Pleasance?
What about Donald Pleasance and a terrible Scottish accent? Is that selling you yet?
I mean, that should be top tier right there.
Right? That's all I needed.
Yeah, man, this movie's great. And, man, I'm just kind of lost the words for it. I mean, it's so well done. Even as crazy as the subject matter is, this movie's put together really well. And what do you expect out of Argento at this time, right? And I think that's why we have such a problem with his later stuff. Because it seems like this stuff was happening, it seems like this stuff was just happening naturally for him. Then it seems like he was trying too hard on the later stuff, and it just wasn't getting it, right? But everybody has their heyday, right? I mean, we talk about Carpenter and all those guys. But yeah,
he had a few moments after this and like after Opera, like in the late 90s. Like, I think Sleepless still has some moments that is,
I thought Sleepless was pretty good. Yeah,
worth checking out. And the Stendhal Syndrome, although the subject matter is really hard to get through, is a really well-made film, and it's very carefully crafted.
Yeah.
And while Phenomena is a very kind of batshit crazy movie, if you put in the work and you pay attention and you listen to the dialogue and you try to follow the story, there is a through line there. It may not make logical sense with all of this hoopla of, supernatural powers and this like little mini killer with a collapsible spear. And, if you don't get bogged down in those details of things that don't make logical sense, there is an actual story flow in this fantasy world that would make sense in that realm. And it's a very good mystery in that context. But the world that surrounds it is so batshit insane that it's kind of hard to get there and follow along with it. This is probably the closest when he was trying to remake Suspiria multiple times. Like he did it with what is the second True Mother's Inferno. Yeah, he kind of tried it with Inferno, but he kind of missed the mark on what made it great. And then he hit it really well here with Phenomena, but it isn't quite really a Mother's trilogy.
Right.
It very easily could have been. He just needed to tweak it a little bit. So I mean, I think that has that same kind of feel that he was going for with Suspiria so well here. So this is like kind of the best of both worlds. It's like Suspiria and one of his great giallos just kind of mashed together like a Reese's peanut butter cup of fucking insane awesome.
And I think that's exactly why I like it so much, and you as well, because we talked about how hard Suspiria kind of is to digest those first few times. This one's like a more digestible version, like you said. Yeah, I think that's dead on, man. And bringing in the giallo stuff that we like so much that he's known for. Yeah, best of both worlds, and some Iron Maiden.
Yeah, that's the glass of milk that goes along with the Reese's peanut butter cup of awesome. Insane awesome, let alone.
All right, man. So normally I give these a rating. I do the 1 through 5 thing like everybody does because I'm just that unoriginal.
Well, I mean, I get it. 1 is didn't like it. 2 is liked it. 3 is really liked it. No. 3 is whatever it is. The higher up, the more you. Obviously, 5 is absolutely loved.
It's the Duncan McLeish scale, right?
Yeah, the Netflix scale that Duncan McLeish usurped, and now that Netflix doesn't do, it's just thumbs up or thumbs down.
Right.
So this is however many you need to make it happy. It's going to go over that for me. I'm pushing the past 5 stars button and trying to break the interface on this one for sure because this is one of my absolute favorites of his.
Yeah, I give it a 5 as well. Even as crazy as it is. Some people will like it. A lot of people will love it. A lot of people probably won't like it. I don't know. But for me, personally, I never get tired of this one. And when we brought this up as a conversation piece, we were both like, I don't even really know that I have to watch it again to talk about it. Obviously, I failed. Obviously, I failed on that because I was missing some things here. But overall, it's just it's a staple in my collection. I mean, it's one of those that I have to have in my collection and I have to share it with people. So that's why it's on this show. And I'm glad that Cort, you're the one to bring it up because it's obviously on my list, but giving me any reason to move it up in front, totally fine with that, man.
Well, and I mean, okay, talking about like, what is your favorite, like just to kind of illustrate this, I just got a 4K UHD of this right before. And so when I saw that was on the list, that's why I kind of went for it when you wanted me to guest on the show, and I'm glad it fit in with the batshit crazy and all of that. But this is the let me just do this in my head. 6th copy that I own of this now. I had a VHS dub of Creepers that I rented and then dubbed. Then I bought Anchor Bay VHS of it of Phenomena. Then I bought the Anchor Bay DVD. Then I bought the Psyops Blu-ray that I think was the steelbook of this, and now I have the Psyops 4K.
I can't remember which Blu-ray I've got of it, but I've definitely got it on Blu-ray, but I don't have it on 4K yet, which I will. I do have Suspiria on 4K, though. I
do have, okay, so I have that for the DVD and everything, and I think I bought a VHS, like an X-Rental. When the shop I rented it from, I have a Creeper somewhere of the X-Rental VHS of that, and it's in really bad shape. So that's at least 5. So I have at least 5 copies of this, and I think I bought it on DVD twice. Actually, because somebody did an even better scan than Anchor Bay. So I may have even 6 now that I think about it. That's a lot.
I'm kind of with you, though. I mean, I discovered a lot of these movies that I really didn't see before. But when Anchor Bay kind of did all the releases of this stuff, that's where I really started digging in and finding a lot of these. I'd probably had seen this one as a kid as Creepers and probably didn't pay a lot of attention to it. I don't remember it back then. But I was blown away by, when Anchor Bay was releasing all the stuff, and I was like, got to check this one out, and was blown away. So, and like I said, it's in the collection, right?
Oh, it has to be. Yeah. If you love insane and Italian films, which you should love insane Italian films if you're watching or listening to this show or mine, I mean, you just kind of have to.
Just part of the deal.
You should have this one. And if you're a Dario Argento fan and you haven't given this one a really good shot, go back and just kind of watch it with the eyes of, hey, this is a fantasy movie. It doesn't need to make whole lots of logical sense.
Yeah.
But the actual murder mystery plot still follows along that crazy illogical nonsense that is the rest of the world in this story.
Still doing the two possible killer scenario way before Scream.
Yeah, Kevin Williamson's a hack. I'll say it out loud right now.
Oh, but yeah, man, that's pretty much it for this one. Cort, tell everybody where they can find your show and what you got going on. I mean, obviously they know where they can find you because we're on the same network, but go ahead and spill it, man.
Ordinarily, when I'm not cutting out my lunch to be able to record with Ricky during the middle of a day, I'm recording with Matt every Sunday to release the following week for Cinema Psyops. If you're on Legion Podcast website, you can find us under the podcast tab. You can just search Cinema Psyops. We're going to pop up because we've been doing this for, well, pretty much over 400 weeks by the time this gets released.
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah, man. Like I'm rounding the corner on 8 years done. I have 30% of this 8th year completely closed to where I'll be on 9 years soon.
Wow. Crazy.
We just can't stop.
Hey, that's all right. And that's not easy either. There's all the peaks and valleys of dealing with, trying to keep something going. It's the hardest thing, man, is to keep the wheels turning. So, but yeah, man.
Big ups to Matt, actually, even though he'll never hear this, which is how I like to compliment Matt best, is the way he'll never hear it. He is working through adversity to keep the show going because he needs it as much as I do. And
Sure.
I really credit him for that. He's really putting in the time and effort to be able to continue the show going.
Awesome. Good deal, man. That's good to hear. So, but yeah, you can find Cort, Cinema Psyops. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. I mean, what's not to like? I mean, it's Cort Psyops. You heard the guy. He's awesome.
I don't know if they're all going to feel that way, but I hope they do. And also, if you enjoy Ricky and I bantering back and forth like a couple of madmen or cackling old women, check out Mental Rental on the Legion podcast feed.
Yes, and hopefully we'll get the newest one out there that I thought was already out there. So I'm a little behind on that, but we'll get it.
Like I said, if you have any issues with it, or if you just want me to add it to the video after you get it all ready to go and sync it up, I will do that for you. That's no problem. I'll take that extra bit of effort. You've done the bulk of the work there. If we can get them out more regularly, I'll start taking over some of those duties.
We'll see. We'll figure it all out.
If you're willing to give me the control.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Less on me is always better.
That was my philosophy.
All right, folks, that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Hey, let us know if you're a fan of this flick. Let me know if you're into the Argento stuff. I'd love to hear your stories of when you first saw this movie and what you think about it, all that good stuff. Interaction, folks. That's why we're doing this more than anything else, and to hopefully get you to check out something you've never seen before. That's kind of it. It's the used car salesman thing, man. We're trying to get you to check out something that we think is groovy. That's right.
Yeah, and even though we've told you basically everything that's going to happen, you still have no idea what's going to happen in the plot.
Yeah.
It's still going to blow your mind.
Absolutely. So, all right, folks, that's it for this episode. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will check you later.